waponi, and we're looking at a file that is now open in Audacity, and this file is for the Asian glossy starling. And you can see through the sonogram the call that is across the file, and it's been edited somewhat. You can see by these areas that have been removed. I'm going to open a different file and show you how to edit bird calls. All right, let's take an example. I just want to listen to this one for a second. Okay, the Asian glossy starling is a very noisy bird and it makes a lot of calls. Okay, it's a little bit challenging for us to work with. So I'm going to back up and start with a simpler call like the dove. So to do that, I'm going to go back into Audacity. I'm going to open a recent file, actually Emerald Dove file that's right here. This is my most recent file, and I'll show you a couple things about it. First thing is it comes in initially as a title. You can see Asian Emerald Dove, Chalcophaps indica, that's the right species. And you'll see here that it comes in as a wave file, which is just this big purple wave. No matter what you do with it, that's the way it looks. I'm going to go over here right to that area. Let's enlarge this so it's the full screen. This is the name of the file right there. If I right click on that space, I can change waveform to spectrogram. Spectrogram gives me a lot more information on this file. What it shows me is, let's listen. It's not very loud, but you can see the dove call is this woot, woot, woot at the bottom, which are these dashed lines right across the bottom of the file. The calls on top are birds that we don't really want in this particular recording. So we'll deal with that in a moment. So what can we do with this? For machine learning, we need a couple of things. We need a file that primarily shows the sound of the species of interest as the prominent sound, which this one clearly does not right now. I mean, I can hear that dove, but it's not the prominent sound. And we want to clean it up so that we don't have a lot of tones marching on top of our dove song, but we don't want to make it completely blank either. So what we're going to do is make a variety of cuts, and the cuts, third part, they have to be less than 3 seconds long. So that means that we're basically going to cut each of these little dashes out and save it as a file. So again, I'm going to repeat, my goals here will be to first take the file and reduce the background noise so that it is not disturbing the primary sound. And then I'm going to cut the primary sound into chunks that are shorter than 3 seconds. So I want to basically take the key song of our dove. So let's see how we can do that. The first way we can do it is to look at the amplitude, because I can't hear it very well right now. And there's an effect here that should be called volume and compression, which will make it louder. So I can amplify the sound, select it, it says, and then amplify. I say, okay. So I use to select, I do Control A or select all, and then I do the same effect again, volume, amplify. They have a number in there. I say apply. That's fine. Now it should all be a lot louder and easier for me to see and edit. That's what it is. We turned up the volume. But now you really hear that bird calling over the top of my dove call, which is that woot woot at the bottom. So there are a couple of ways of dealing with it. The first way is to use a low pass or high pass filter. The pass filter refers to these sounds. You're going to put in a number based on this frequency here. And the pass is, well, if it's a high pass, there'll be all the things above that number will pass through. And if it's a low pass, everything below that number will pass through. So what I'm going to try to do is choose a number around 500 down here. And then I'm going to say low pass filter. So everything below 500 passes through. And then I'm going to diminish everything above that. Okay, this is an effect here. The effect we choose, it's under EQ and filters, and it's a low pass filter. The low pass filter, I'm going to put, it's already at 500. Actually, in this case, because this is on a log scale, I could pretty easily put that at 400. I'm going to just put it at 400 for now, and then I'm going to apply. And so what it did is diminish these upper sounds. Let's listen again. Those other sounds are still pretty loud, but we've cut them out quite a bit. All right. So what I'm going to try actually is to do, I could do a high pass filter, and I could get, if I wanted to get rid of this bottom sound down here, you see where it's hot white down here. If I wanted to get rid of that sound, I could do a high pass filter and only let sounds above 200 stay in. If I do that, I get rid of this background noise. And it's been recommended to me not to do that for machine learning because it's very likely we will have those sounds in Singapore. So what I'm going to do is try to go in and I'm going to do a deletion of the bird calls instead, keeping the background noise as much as I can. I don't want it to be dead silent. I'm going to do effect. Well, I'll tell you what I can do right here is I can select that bird call. You see when I'm clicking and dragging, and what the click and drag allows me to do, and clicking and expanding, it allows me to pick these bird calls like this. This hot red area, here's what I'm choosing. I can go to my effect, and I can go to spectral tools, and I can do spectral delete. And what that does is removes that bird call. So the bird calls here that are on top, I can do the same thing here. Effect, spectral tool, spectral delete. The track doesn't have the complete natural sound that it had before, but I'm able to sort of eliminate these distractions that are in there. Effect, spectral tool, spectral delete. Okay. Now it's going to sound a little bit different. Let's try it out. Okay. But I have a lot of dashes. I'm kind of disturbed by this sound in here as well anyway. I'm going to try to get rid of that. Let's try it out and just go ahead and effect delete that. Spectral tool, spectral delete. Now it's going to be a lot quieter. All right, I haven't gotten rid of everything, but I got rid of a lot of it. If it's an imperfect deletion, that's fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to break it into segments, okay? I'm going to do that, I'm going to select a portion like this, the woot, all right? It's pretty close to just the woot. I'm going to go to the top, I'm going to say File. I'm going to export, and I'm going to export not the whole file, just the selected audio. Now I'm going to name this, and the way I like to do this is I actually hit the right arrow key when I'm up here, and I hit the right arrow key for the title, and I go right to the end of the title here. And then I'm going to put at the end of the title, I'm going to put a 1 like this, because this is my first cut. And what's in this title is the code name, the code number for this recording up here. And you'll see the full Latin name is here, the English name, the common name is here, all the information is that I need. We may change this, so it's just the code, but for right now. And it's in Emerald Dove segments. So I want you to create a folder that will be, your folder for this thing. I'm going to make a new folder, which I'm going to call Emerald Dove Test Teach, which is what I'm doing for you now because I've actually already clipped this file before. So I'm going to create that file, Emerald Dove Teach. The number is up there. It's got a number 1. Let's go check it again at the end. There it is. This is the first clip, and I'm going to click Save. So let's make another clip, which is this one here. And you can see I'm keeping all the sound. All I'm going to do is go to the file. I'm going to export. I'm going to export selected audio. And this time I'm going to click the right arrow. And I'm going right to the end. And I'm going to say, this is file 2. Save. I'm going to take another chunk of this. I'm going to go over here. It is tedious. It goes on and on. Export selected audio. This time I'm going to hit the right arrow key and I'm going to go right to where I want to be. And I'm going to say this is file 3. Okay. I want you to do this for each of these pieces of sound that are in there. And then I want you to collect some pieces of sound that go together. So for example, these 3 go together. And it's about 4 seconds. Let's try to do a 3-second clip of that. So get 2, woot, woot. Take both of those. File. Let's export that. Same thing, export selected audio. This becomes another track. So it'll be, in my case, here it'll be track 4. But for you, it might be track 10 or 11. And it's just going to be a little bit longer. And I want you to do the same thing for right in here, 2 of these, and then 2 of these. You don't have to do every possible combination, but try to get 10 tracks of sound out of this track, okay? And then let's go back and that will then become the short segments that you have saved from this particular recording, all right? And they will go into a folder, and we will keep everything in the same folder for the cut segmented tracks. All right, and so we'll pile them up in there, and then we'll take a look, like maybe we can look right now to see, for example, Asian Emerald Dove segments for ML. This is my... Oh dear. Well, I don't see if I didn't save it in the same place. So when we go in to listen to them, they should sound like something like this. These are my source tracks. These are my segments. These are segments I've cut before. That's an example of a track that had 2 calls in it. Okay, nice job. If you're going to go, and the goal here is to have all the segmented tracks in a single folder for each species. So they'll be named differently for each of your tracks. If you have 64 tracks, you're going to try to make 10 cuts out of each of those 64, which will make 640 short tracks. They will all be in one folder, and that folder will be named after your species, okay? I'm going to give you another species, a little trickier. This is a species that is the starling. In this case, it's already been processed really well. There's not a lot of background noise to get rid of. It sounds pretty good. So what I'm going to do in this case is cut it into reasonable chunks. So I'm going to export chunks like this beginning call. I'll export that as a bit, as a segment. This could be a segment. This could be a segment here. This could be a segment. This could be a segment for sure. Starting here, this is what it sounds like. That sounds good. So we could take that. That sounds like a fingerprintable sound. But even this last segment. So I could easily pull 7 segments out of the glossy starling without having to edit the sound at all. Just cutting the chunks out and putting it into a single folder that says Asian Glossy Starling. And of course, these files would be named XC764951, right? Parentheses 1, and then parentheses 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that is what we need to get going.